What does it really mean that the kingdom of God is within? Hetepu fam, peace and blessings. This is Derric, RauKhu, and this video is by request. There were some people, or I don't want to say people, but there were some fam that went ahead and they were asking, what is the kingdom of God? What do you mean the kingdom of God is within? And what does that mean from a Kemetic perspective? So that's why I wanted to go ahead and I wanted to share this, wanted to make this video. Before I go ahead and I do that, before I talk about, go into what we're, the purpose of this video and explain all of that, I want to first of all go ahead and say that I am getting your messages. I'm not ignoring them. There's been a lot of fam that's been hitting me up about the courses. The courses they're in development. Okay. As soon as I go ahead, as soon as we go ahead, because I got a team that's working on this. As soon as we go ahead and we get this all together, we'll go ahead and we will, we'll release it. Okay. We just want to make sure that we got a good product and we're dealing with some quality and that you get it in a timely manner and everything. Okay. So, like I said, just wanted to let you know that, we haven't, I'm not ignoring you. I'm not, deleting or any of that kind of stuff. We are actually going ahead and we see the requests, we see the comments and all that kind of stuff, the suggestions and everything. But we're, like I said, it's just taking a little bit of time to process it, and we want to make sure that we're processing it correctly. That being said, like I said, I want to go ahead and this is by request. There was, a few fam members were talking about, hey, what do you mean the kingdom of God is within? Can you explain what that means, from a Kemetic perspective? And metaphysically speaking, when we talk about the kingdom of God being within, what we're actually referring to is the fact that human beings are a microcosm of a greater macrocosm. Okay. If you ever read any of the Kemetic, well, not even Kemetic, but if you read most of your creation theories, most of your creation myths, it's not by coincidence that the human being is always the last being that's created. Okay, usually the last being that's created. Okay, meaning that the divine goes ahead and says, "Hey, we're going to create everything. We're going to create everything within the universe." Okay, everything. Even bugs and insects. The smallest thing to the largest thing. And after all of that's done, then we're going to create a human being. Okay. The whole point of that is that it's alluding to the fact that everything that exists within the universe can be found within us. It can be found within our being. Okay. It is it refers to the fact that it can be found within our being, and it's not just speaking from a metaphysical. I don't want to say metaphysical, but it's not just speaking from a biological perspective. We're referring to, like I said, metaphysical and even alchemical perspective. Okay, that's what that refers to. All right, and what it actually means is that everything that exists within the universe, in other words, after the universe is created, then the divine decides, let me imbue within the human being, within man and woman, let me imbue within the human being the essence of the universe. Okay. So you can see it basically when you start to understand it from a metaphysical perspective, it really refers to, it really, gets you to see the power of the human mind. Okay. And that's what it means. Metaphysically, that's what it refers to. Okay. Now, from a spiritual perspective, to get a more practical use of this, the kingdom of God, or the kingdom of God being within, is referring more to your, from a Kemetic perspective, to your higher and your lower self. Okay. Remember, your higher self is your superconscious, and that's symbolized as Osir, who, the Greeks called Osiris. Your lower self is your subconscious, and that is your subconscious or your ego, and that is symbolized by Set. Okay? Now, part of the reason why this gets a little confusing for some people or for a lot of people is because there's a lot of ideologies that exist out there. And, when we were first, most of us, we come from a Christian background, we come from a church background. And, from childhood all the way through, we were basically taught that the devil is this impish character or impish being that exists. And this impish being basically runs around with a, red impish being runs around with a pitchfork, tempting you to go ahead and to commit sin against God. Okay. Then you get a little bit more, you get a little conscious. And when you get a little bit of conscious, you come across, certain people who go ahead and they say, okay, well, no, the devil is, these people right here or this people right here, or, because look at the way they do this, or look at how this group does this, and again, you get that, you're getting that it's someone else's ideology, and it's not really quote unquote true. Okay, it fits a narrative, but it's not really, like I said, from a spiritual perspective, it's not really helpful. Okay, and the reason why is because just even from the earlier time when you were you brought up as a Christian or you brought up in the church, and then you get into the conscious part, and people are telling you to identify, or the devil is still this group. You're still identifying with the devil, or you're still identifying with something outside of yourself, and you're referring to that as being evil. Okay. In Kemetic spirituality, we don't look at it that way. Okay. In Kemetic spirituality, it's your lower self that is quote unquote set, or is set, or quote unquote evil. Okay. But evil is not, Set is not considered to be the epitome of evil. Okay. Like in Christianity, where, the devil is, against God. Okay. That kind of, I don't want to, and I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes, but that kind of nonsense doesn't exist in Kemetic spirituality. Because in Kemetic spirituality, evil is imbalance, okay, which is Esfet. Good is balance, or Ma'at, okay? So when things are balanced, when things are at Ma'at, then it's considered good, all right? When things are imbalanced, it's considered to be evil, all right? So that's the reason why I really don't use those type of terms or anything. We don't use good and evil, because that's our relative. It's our relative to the individual. All right. Now, what do you mean that like I said, this is the question that came about, what do you mean the kingdom of God is within? And explain that from a Kemetic perspective. And like I said, the higher self is symbolized as Osir. The lower self is symbolized as Set, which is your ego self. Okay. So from a spiritual perspective, how does this relate to, the kingdom of God? Okay. In other words, the devil is not someone outside of you. The devil is not some entity that exists outside of your being. The devil is within you, just like God is within you. Okay. So what does that really mean? What does that really refer to? And this is what, like I said, this is where the question was coming in at. In order to actually understand that the devil is within you just like God is within you, okay, you have to, first of all, you have to understand, get rid of the notion that the supreme being is against the devil or is against Set, okay? that doesn't exist in Kemetic spirituality. That's part of the reason why there's a lot of confusion, because a lot of us still have this notion that the devil is fighting God. Okay, in Kemetic spirituality, like I said, it is Set who is fighting Osir, your higher self. Okay, but the divine Nebuchadnezzar, okay, the God and Goddess, or it Almighty, is over all of it, both Osir and Set. Okay, so this means that the kingdom of God being within, this balance or this fight that's going on, it exists within you. It is a fight between your higher and lower self. Okay, that's your kingdom. All right. Now, a lot of people, they get confused on this whole thing in regards to the ego. And part of the reason why they get confused is because this society has made it so that every time someone says ego, you're referring to, someone who's arrogant. Okay. And that has something to do with it. Arrogance has, it plays a part of it, but it is not really what the ego deals with. It's not really what Set is. Okay. To really understand to really understand Set, or to really understand your Set, you got to kind of look back and think, when you were young, there's a part of you that goes ahead and basically did not know how to do certain things. So it pieced together based upon who was around it, based upon what it learned from your family, what it learned from friends, what it learned off of watching TV, or whatever the case may be. It basically pieced together your personality, okay, and pieced together your way of doing things in order for you to physically survive. Okay, so I'll give you an example. When I was younger, one of the things I used to do, because I was athletic, but I wasn't a really tall kid when I was in school. And I wasn't, I'm muscular and everything. I was athletic to that extent, but I wasn't a tall, big kid, okay? But at the same time, I wasn't a real small kid, all right? So one of the things in which I went ahead and did, in order to protect myself and protect myself from bullies, was that I aligned myself with the kids who were bigger kids, the bigger and taller and, older kids. I align myself with them so that I can go ahead and I can be, get cool with them so that, I would be protected, physically protected from bullies. But I will also go ahead and align myself with the, quote unquote, and I'm not trying to be stereotypical, but I will align myself with the kids who were, considered the quote unquote, the nerdy kids, and I did that in order for me to go ahead and to learn, to basically catch up on work and all that kind of stuff. All right. Now, as a result, that became my thing. Every time I would go somewhere, I would go ahead and align myself with let me align myself with the more popular kids. Let me align myself with these kind of kids. And that was it. The problem with that is that I developed a dependency on others. And as a result, so when others, didn't do right by me, well, I'm upset with them. Okay? I'm highly upset with them, when really I should have been learning how to depend upon myself. Okay. So, but that was something that I developed as, like I said, as a kid. That's how I learned how to get along. That's how I learned how to go ahead and do things. And the reason why I did it that way, okay, there's nothing it's not completely wrong that I did this, okay, until it basically became, like I said, a full dependency on other people in order for them to save you, in order for them to help you, in order for them to improve your life. Here it is, you're dependent upon someone else instead of dependent upon yourself. Okay, so as you can see, there's the balance, there's the ma'ah, but then there's also the isfet, the imbalance. There's where the evil the quote unquote evil comes into play. All right, so why did I go ahead and do that? It's because I didn't know how to tap into my higher self. I didn't know how to tap into or deal with my Osir. See, if we were raised in a spiritual culture, then someone, all they had to do was tell me, hey, instead of going ahead and depending upon, instead of depending upon these kids right here to go ahead and protect you, why don't you just go ahead and invoke and say, I am protected. The divine, I am protected by the divine. And I continue to repeat that until it became a reality. See, that's the way in which you would do it if we were raised in a spiritual culture. But because I was not raised in a spiritual culture, and I'm raised in this culture that this society that we're dealing with, that's the reason why we're doing it from this Setian perspective, and that's where you see how the problems arise. Okay, so when we're talking about, again, the kingdom of God being within, and you want to get practical use of that, this is how you go about. You do this. You go ahead and you engage. You go ahead and you engage. Somebody just delivered something, but you go ahead and you engage. Like I said, your higher self, and let your higher self go ahead and bring balance to things. Okay, when you're doing things strictly from your subconscious perspective, then you're doing things. You run the risk of it being imbalanced. Okay, you run the risk of there being some effect going on. Okay, and that's what it really refers to when we're talking about the kingdom of God being within. It is going ahead and working and getting that balance between your higher self and your lower self, so that you can go ahead and you can wear that double white and red Peshet crown. Okay, so hope that makes sense. If you got any comments, suggestions, questions or so, feel free to go ahead and drop me a line. Again, thanks again for everything. Thanks again. I forgot to mention, thank you for your donations, for all the donations and contributions that some of you have made. I appreciate that. Eventually, we're going to go ahead, when we get a chance, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do a live. But like I said, we're just waiting to go ahead and get things, ironed out, okay, and set in order, okay. So until next time, thanks again. But until next time, Hetepu, peace.
Get out of here.